The road curved like a coiled snake through the dark hills, my headlights cutting through the fog. West Virginia had a way of feeling endless at night. Trees pressed in too close, radio static drowning the silence, and a sense that the world outside your windshield didn't quite belong to you anymore. I'd been driving for hours, somewhere between lost and late, when the gas light blinked to life on the dash. No signal on the phone, just empty roads and the whisper of rain on the hood. Then, through the mist, a cracked wooden sign appeared at the roadside, half swallowed by vines. Welcome to Merrow Creek, population 312. The kind of town you don't plan on visiting. Just a place that exists quietly between somewhere and nowhere. The town's main street was a single strip of cracked asphalt lined with buildings that looked like they'd been abandoned. A gas station with a flickering neon sign. A hardware store that probably hadn't changed hands since the 60s. And on the far end, a building with a crooked sign that read The Crooked Lantern. I pulled into the gas station, filled the tank under the dim light, and glanced toward the bar across the road. Warm yellow light spilled from its windows. Soft, steady, human. After hours of fog and silence, that glow felt like gravity. So I crossed the street, pushed open the door, and stepped into the kind of bar that feels older than the town itself. The air smelled of tobacco and rain-damp wood. Country music hummed low from an old jukebox, and 3 men sat scattered along the counter, nursing drinks like they'd been doing it every night for years. The bartender, a wiry man with a trimmed gray beard, gave me a glance that said outsider before going back to his glass. I sat onto a stool near the middle, the one spot that didn't seem claimed, and ordered whiskey. The kind that burns first, then feels like warmth later. I wasn't looking for conversation, just a little noise, something to remind me the world hadn't forgotten me out here. But the man 2 seats down gave me a sideways look and a nod. That's how it started. We don't get many passing through this late, he said, voice low and worn like gravel. His accent was mountain deep, Appalachian drawl, the kind that stretched vowels and made even small talk sound like a story. Just driving through, I replied. Gaslight came on, figured I'd stop before I got stranded. He chuckled softly, turning his glass in his hand. Merrow Creek's the last stop for 20 miles in either direction. Funny how cars always seem to run out right about here. I smiled, half polite, half unsure what to make of that. The bartender slid my drink across the counter. Whiskey, he said. The local, he looked to be in his 50s, maybe older, had sunburnt skin and deep lines that came from a lifetime outdoors. Probably a farmer or miner once. There was something steady in his presence, like a man who'd seen a lot and talked about little. Quiet little town, I said, taking a sip. Seems peaceful. He gave a slow nod, eyes still fixed on the amber swirl in his glass. Quiet's what we like. Always has been. Though. He hesitated, the word hanging heavy in the space between us. Ain't been truly quiet since the twins. I turned toward him. The twins? He looked at me then, really looked. His eyes were gray, sharp despite the years. You're not from around here, are you? No, just passing through. He smirked faintly, like he already knew that. Figures. Folks from outside don't know our stories. You won't find this one in any paper neither. He leaned back on his stool, sighing like someone dusting off an old memory they'd rather keep buried. 2 sisters, he began, born same night, same breath. Looked the same too, down to the freckles and dimples. But God help us, they weren't the same on the inside. The jukebox clicked off in the background. The only sound was the hum of the neon sign outside, buzzing faintly through the walls. I didn't say a word. Maybe you want to hear it, he said. Since you're here. I nodded, setting my glass down. Sure. Tell me." The old man turned towards the window, rain still streaking down the glass. His reflection stared back like a ghost. "That's how it started," he murmured. "The story of the twins." The old man took a slow sip, like he needed a bit of courage before digging into the memory. "See, the twins were born to a farmer named Henry. He lived out on the East Ridge, where the tree line swallows most of the sky. He and his wife couldn't have children for years. Then one spring, like a blessing, they got two at once." He smiled faintly. "They called them Claire and May. Claire was the sunshine child, black hair, bright eyes, always smiling. She'd sing while hanging laundry, help her ma at the market, charm everyone in the town. Folks said she was the kind of girl that made the world feel softer. May, she was different. Not cruel exactly, just heavy. Like the air around her didn't move right. She'd stare at things too long, say strange things for a child. Once, when she was 6, a neighbor's dog barked at her and dropped dead the next morning. Another time, she got in a shouting match with a boy from school. Next day, his hand got caught in a thresher. Folks around here noticed things like that. People started saying May was born wrong, that she came out backward, all twisted and silent, till her sister cried. That's when May took her first breath, like she borrowed it from Claire." The man's eyes flicked toward me to see if I was still listening. I was. Every word. "They grew up close, though," he went on, "like two ends of the same rope. What one didn't have, the other did. Henry used to say God tied them together too tight for their own good. But as they got older, the gap between them widened. Claire stayed sweet, open, loved by everyone. May turned inward, angry. She'd disappear into the woods for hours, come back with scratches on her arms and dirt under her nails, saying she'd been talking to the shadows. The bartender gave him a look from the other end of the bar, quiet but knowing. The old man just nodded slightly and went on. Then one night it happened. Folks don't agree on how, but they found Claire out by the creek, face down in the water. Looked like she slipped and hit her head, but..." He paused, shaking his head. "Some said they saw May running through the trees that night barefooted, screaming her sister's name." The room felt smaller suddenly. The rain outside had stopped, but I could still hear the drops sliding down the window. He rubbed his thumb along the rim of his glass. "They buried Claire 2 days later. The preacher said prayers, the town showed up. Even May, quiet as stone. No tears, no words. Just stared at the coffin. But that's when something changed." He leaned closer. "That's when the knocks started. I was one of the 6 men carrying her that day," the old man said, his hand tightening around the glass. "Folks think I just heard it from someone, but no, I was right there. It was muddy, real bad that morning. The ground sucked at our boots like it didn't want us to leave. The preacher was saying something I couldn't hear, 'cause all I could think about was the weight. Not the kind that pulls on your shoulders, the kind that pulls on your gut." He paused, staring down at the condensation running down his beer. "Then I heard it. 3 knocks. He mimed the sound with his knuckles against the counter. Soft at first, then again. Right from inside the box. Thought I'd imagined it, till I saw Joe's face. He heard it too. And then..." The man swallowed hard, eyes flicking to the traveler. "We heard her whispering. Couldn't make out the words, just that voice. Scratching, like fingernails on wood. We dropped the damn thing. Everybody started yelling, but when we pried it open..." His voice broke to a rasp. "She was cold, still, eyes closed, like nothing happened. I felt the chill crawl up my arms. The bar was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. The sheriff said it was just the wood shifting, folks imagining things. But old Henry, he didn't speak for a week after. May started wearing her sister's clothes not long after that. Said they made her feel whole. Wouldn't answer to her own name anymore. Just kept saying she was Claire now. Someone swore they saw May standing out there, barefoot in the rain, still wearing her funeral dress. She just stood over her sister's grave smiling, mud up to her ankles, head tilted like she was listening for something. He looked at me, eyes half shadowed. You ever seen someone smile but there's nothing human behind it? I didn't answer. She stopped coming into town after that, he went on. Then one night her ma woke up to the sound of laughing out by the barn. Said it sounded like both her girls. When she went to look, the barn door was open. Just the wind inside. May was gone. Vanished. Folks searched the woods for days, but they never found her. He leaned in closer, his breath faintly carrying whiskey and tobacco. Sometimes on quiet nights like this you can still hear knocking coming from her grave. Some say it's Claire, looking for a way out. He sat back and sighed. Either way, that's when Marrow Creek stopped being quiet. For a long moment after he finished, neither of us said a word. The rain had stopped completely, leaving a stillness that felt unnatural, like the whole town was holding its breath. The old man sat there with both hands around his glass, eyes lost somewhere far past the walls of the bar. His story hung in the air like the smell of smoke, clinging, heavy, unwilling to leave. The jukebox clicked back on by itself, a slow country song creaking through the dust. The bartender turned the volume down without a word. That's some story, I finally said, forcing a half smile. You tell it often? He looked at me, the faintest smirk on his lips. Only to those who ask. The bartender shot him a sharp glance, voice low but edged. Enough, Earl. Earl, so that was his name. Earl just shrugged and took another drink. I glanced at the clock above the bar. It was almost midnight. Well, I said, standing, I'd better get moving before the roads get worse. Outside, the fog had thickened again. The streetlights hummed weakly against the dark, their glow swallowed by mist. My car sat alone by the pump, the only sound the slow tick of cooling metal. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The headlights cut through the fog, barely. As I turned onto the road, I glanced once more toward the crooked lantern. Through the window, Earl was still sitting at the bar, head bowed. The bartender was busy with arranging the glasses. The road out of town was narrow and slick, the forest pressing close on either side. I drove slow, more out of unease than caution. The story from the bar echoed in my head, blending with the steady thump of the wipers and the road ahead.